yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment. So it's Charles and I that are going to give you some updates. We'll do major division as we're closing up on those poll rankings. We'll close out next week. Have some updates this week, and then we'll get in a little more baseball talk, breaking you down in terms of who's hot, who's not only for the teams, which we did a little bit on Tuesday, but we'll break down on some of the players, top 5 in different categories to see what's going on there. So we'll give you a full show. I am still here in Columbia, South Carolina for the CSRI, presenting research and making sure I stay on top of it from that side, representing HBCUs, particularly Texas Southern University. So good stuff there. You notice I gave them a little message today, Charles.
Okay. I see that.
Make sure they understand. You know, it ain't personal. It's just what we do. That's what we do.
Sometimes you got to drop that off on folks.
Appreciate it. That's right. This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. So welcome to episode 794. Sorry you didn't get your independent report yesterday. But they'll be back next week. A couple things came up. But so we're on episode 794 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora with all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-hosts, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios. At least these gentlemen are. I'm on the road, as I said. Going to get into Richmond tomorrow evening and be there Saturday for the championship rounds constellation games for the Black College Invitational Championship for men's and women's at the mid-major level. That's Division II programs. We'll get down. So we'll let you know what that looks like, which is why we stretched out the end of the year poll rankings to make sure we get this in to have a good finish in terms of where those teams fall at the top 5. And in the mid-major division, it's solid at who's there, but we'll see if this throws a little monkey wrench in terms of getting a couple of teams in the final component of it. But we pretty much know who number 1 is, but the rest of the teams want to have a solid end of the season and make an argument for a championship that they're pushing for. But with that being said, Mike, how you doing today?
I'm good, Doc. You said I'm at the home studio. No, I am on the road. I dealt with this traveling mess in the airports 2 days in a row, and I gave a few expletives across several chat lines dealing with this mess. So Mike was not on assignment, but Mike was a hot individual this week dealing with the airport lines and airports. So other than that, glad to be here. Glad to see you both. And I'll leave it there. So.
That's good. Don't hurt my feelings. I got to, like I said, travel tomorrow, and then I'm trying to get home Saturday night. So y'all make sure y'all say a couple of extra prayers for your boy to make sure that the folks that are working hard without getting financially paid able to get what needs to get done. With that being said, Charles, I see you with the little HBCU gear on. I see you representing. Appreciate you.
Oh, yeah.
How you doing today?
No doubt. Opening day of MLB officially today. So, I had to bring out the win vest, bring it back out and whatnot. So it doubles both for baseball and for golf. So
Yeah,
So,
work
That's
golf
right.
and baseball.
yes,
I love
indeed.
them shirts. You
Yes,
get a couple
indeed.
more of those, y'all. I'll wear you. I'll put your name on my chest. You get a couple more shirts like that. I was messing with
Yeah,
you. I was like, oh, you wearing that yada, but I like the shirt. So you get a couple more shirts like that, I'll wear those.
no doubt, no doubt. I'll make sure we get it. We'll get a couple of different colors. Get some grays and some blacks. Get some. See if we can get a purple for Mike, a blue, and a maroon. I guess we all can do the maroons as
You said
well.
purple. You said
Yeah,
purple.
we, yeah.
Bruh, you know I don't do purple. I'll do purple.
We
I'm
get the
sorry.
old gold. We get the old gold.
Thank
I
you.
was gonna say the old gold for last. I understand. Yeah, I know you don't do purple. You told me that several times. Never mind, we're not gonna go there. That's past history. We're not gonna rehash. With that being said, give me some of your news today. What's hot on your mind? I guess I'll do it properly. Let me open up so you don't have to deliver this tough news. Langston University, to their credit, played for NAIA Championship on last night, and they lost to Freeman Harmon, 76-71. Close game. They were trailing at half, 33-30. Came back, tied it up, but lost the second half, 43-41. So the total score was 76-71. Got late in that matchup. It was going back and forth, and they had a 2-3 minute drought where they couldn't really score, and then they couldn't get stops. And they made a fascinating push at the end of the game to get it within a bucket. But credit to Hardman as they got it done. Second time in 3 years that they defeat the Langston Lions and earn a championship. Buzzer luck, Buffalo Bills type of situation for Coach Chris over there, as he's lost 3 times in the finals in the last 5 years. But it says a lot that he's been. I want to make sure that out there that that's no easy feat, and the fact that he's taken 2 programs that had never played for the national championship says a lot for itself in terms of what he's doing. One of them there twice in 3 years, final 4 appearances, 3 of the last 4 years. When you talk about that, in terms of Langston's program, Sweet 16 the last 5 years. So he's pulling a lot there. Wonder what it will take in terms of getting it done. I remember back in when he was at Talladega, just kind of like a little bit of buzzer luck there. He literally lost, 4 or 5 games that year? It might have been just 4. But all 4 of them were to the team that ultimately won the championship, which was out of their conference. Mm-hmm. So he lost 2 times in the regular season, once in the tournament championship game, and then in the national championship game. I was like, goodness gracious. Then you come back, get to the championship game, and you see a team that defeated you 3 years ago, and you find a way not quite to get it done. What are your thoughts in terms of that game, that matchup there with you, Charles?
Yeah, I think you touched on it. I mean, it's a feat unto itself to get to the national championship game. But I think I mean, for those who remember well, Buffalo Bills, they got to the Super Bowl and couldn't quite finish it in the Super Bowl. So, but kudos to Langston because, like I said, to just get there, that is quite a feat. Hopefully they'll continue that trajectory where they can get there and actually cut the nets down. But a heck of a season, and definitely the sports story over the past week with regards to HBCU athletics.
Good stuff. Mike, I'm coming to you. Let me give you some of these statistics. For the first half, Langston shot 9 of 25 for 36%. Had a little trouble in terms of the press that they were playing against them, but they figured it out. They shot just 3 for 8 from the 3-point line. They did go 12 for 12, 100% at the free throw line for the first half. In the second half, they shot much better. They went 14 and 22, where they closed the gap, 63%, much more like themselves. But with just 4 for 10 from the 3, but had a couple of key 3-pointers, 40% there, not bad. And they were 11 of 14, 78%, if you would, or just at under 79%, 78.57. For the total game, that means they were 23 of 47, 48.9%, 7 of 18, 38.9%, and 23 of 26 from the free throw line at 88.5% in terms of what they did there, and that was those statistics were Freed, Hardeman. For Langston, they were 10 of 19, 52% field goal percentage. They were just 1 of 5 in that first half at 20%. Free throws, they were 9 of 10, 90%. Second half, 16 of 32, 50% from the field goal percentage overall. 3 points, they were 3 of 9, 33%. And free throws, they were 6 of 9. So for the total game, they shot 26 of 51 or 51% from the field. 4 of 14, which is really probably got them in trouble there at the 3 for just 28.6%. And they were 15 of 19, 78.9% from the free throw line. And you heard what I said about Freedman's percentage and how they were able to kind of make sure that they were able to capture that championship. Big Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of the championship game, Langston, percentage-wise, or just overall thoughts about making it to the championship game for the Lions? Second time in 3 years, for the coach, third time in 5 years.
Yeah, I guess the thoughts and thank you for sharing, Doc, the some of the numbers. They played Freeman Hardeman in 2024? Yes. Same school and lost. The dichotomy is the game before that to get to this championship, they also kind of had a mini kind of second half rally to come back. Yep, and here they had a second half comeback. So it just fell just short. So, just couldn't put it together. I was looking at, what was the one stat, that stood out. One of the things you mentioned was free throws. They had a better percentage of free throws in the previous game than this one. And I don't have the numbers right at me, but that they were converting more threes in their comeback in the previous game.
Right.
And so they had some momentum. I've kind of joked around and said, Langston, they're playing all these games, but this team had heart. They fell behind. They made some mistakes, but they fought back at the end, fell short in this one yet another year. I don't think it's anything they hold their heads down. We thought, you threw the Buffalo Bills. I kind of throw the Houston Oilers in. When Bum Phillips made his triumphant, well, last year we knocked on the door. This year we banged on the door. Next year we going to kick the expletive down. That's kind of what comes to my mind. So I still say hats off to Langston University. They fought hard. Even when they played, they rallied in the second half, as shown by some of the statistics you just showed. So
great breakdown for both of y'all, and I agree with you 100% in terms of ways to look at that matchup. Langston Lions right there on the cuffs of doing something literally that hadn't been done in nearly 60 years. The last HBCU to win a national championship happens to be in our backyard, and that is Texas Southern University, 1977. Coach Moreland, rest in power to him. Moreland Court, with the court named after him in terms of that, and some of the legendary players he had on that team before that, and certainly after that as well, in terms of being able to make some NCAA championship appearances during his time as head coach at Texas Southern University. But with that being said, Charles, what are some other news that you on your mind that you're interested in getting into before we close out this first break?
Let's shift gears. I know we're going to talk about it later on in this program, but let's look at the SWAC Baseball Weekly Awards. That's the SWAC tab. Grambling State's Cameron Hill, Bethune-Cookman's Edwin Sanchez, and Jackson State's Jaden Lopez, and Texas Southern's Byron Robinson as the SWAC Baseball Weekly Awards. The leading hitter, Cameron Hill, he had a huge weekend for Grambling as he helped Grambling sweep Alabama A&M, batting .500, went 6 for 12 with 11 RBIs and 2 home runs and 2 doubles in that series against Alabama A&M. The pitcher of the week was Edwin Sanchez. He continues his outstanding season as he improved to 6-0 in the SWAC as he tossed 7 innings of 1-run ball, allowing just 5 hits with 4 strikeouts. Co-newcomers of the week, Lopez, Jackson State's Jaden Lopez. He picked up the win over Prairie View on Sunday, working 6+ innings in a 15-4 7-inning run-rule victory versus Jackson State. He allowed a pair of runs on 3 hits while striking out 8 to improve to 3-1 on the season. And Byron Robinson, impressive this past week for Texas Southern. He tallied a team-leading 11 runs to go along with 8 hits and 5 home runs this past week for Texas Southern. So those are your SWAC weekly awards there in baseball.
Shout out to the SWAC Weekly Honors. Good information there. Good breakdown. Mike, what other news do you want to share before we get out of here on this first segment?
So this just in, a couple of resources. And I'm gonna switch because I know I don't know if AD will be in, so I was gonna cover the SIAC, but three HBCU teams in the running for NCAA bowling championship. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
So the NCAA has announced its 19-team field. 19-team field for the 2026 Women's Bowling Championship, with several HBCUs that have earned bids. So HBCUs that are in the field, the number 12 ranked Aggies, North Carolina A&T, they represent the MEAC, and they will face defending champion Youngstown State on April 3rd at 9 a.m. And then Fayetteville State, they earned the CIAA's automatic bid and will open play against Carroll in a single elimination mega match on April 2nd. And then Alabama A&M returns to the tournament after winning its first SWAC title since 2014, and they will face Dominican on April 2nd at 9 a.m. in Rochester, New York. So there's links to the format. So I got to credit several sources because I got this through several Facebook notifications, but also it's on HBCU Game Day. It's on HBCU Sports. It's on several channels, but I want to give love. I wanted to give some love to the bowling folks, especially the ladies, as well as that tournament, that National Collegiate Bowling Championship is set.
Good stuff. Good love that you're giving there, and very much appropriate. Shout out to Coach Smith, where the accolades continue to come in. He has been named as one of the head coaches. Game coaches is what they call them for the 2026 HBCU All-Star Game coaches. He replaced Reggie Theus that had other items come up for him, so he declined it or had to withdraw. So Byron Smith steps up for Prairie A&M University and gets that. Nolan Smith, also of the Tennessee State Tigers, Tennessee State University is on there. And then you have Larry Dixon, representing Morehouse College, and Devin Hohen for Fayetteville State University. So wanted to give that update before we take our first break. Come back on the other side, and we're going to do the major division for women in week number 12. Some updates here, little changes based on how some teams kept pushing forward in their postseason play, and we'll see what that looks like. And more importantly, we'll see what these two gentlemen think about the top 5 rankings in week number 12. We'll be right back after this next break.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear HBCU Image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
So we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Let's get into these poll rankings and pull up week number 12 for the Major Division Women's Basketball poll rankings as we close out the year. As we're getting that pulled up, I'll start breaking down for you. As I said, there's a change in the top five. Dropping out this week was Alabama State Hornets that are 17-15, 12-6. But those receiving votes, we have Alcorn State Braves at 17-14, 14-4. As you see there, in terms of those dropping out and receiving votes, Alabama State Hornets, while they dropped out, they're still in that receiving votes, second position there at 17-15 in terms of what they were doing there, 12-6. You have 8 UAPB Golden Lions at 15-16, 10-8. Jackson State Tigers 12-19, 10-8 in terms of what they did in the conference race, and Grambling State Tigers as well finished overall at 13-19, and then 10-8 in the conference. Getting to the top five, jumping back into the rankings in week 12 is Maryland Eastern Shore. The Hawks did finish the WNIT. They had a tough loss the other day, but got a win in the tournament there. It's sitting at 20-15, so they got to the 20 win mark, which is huge for any program, particularly at the Division I level. 11-3 is what they did in the conference race, 49 points. As I said, they were not ranked last week, but they jumped in the top five in week number 12. And number 4, who do we have? We have none other than Norfolk State Spartans. Solid season for them, 18-15. They also did postseason with a tough loss in the WNIT, but they finished 18-15, 11-3, 6-3, 50 points. They did fall a spot in terms of the rankings, bringing us to number 3, the Southern Jaguars, 20-14, 12-6, 62 points. Moving up a spot from 4, solid in terms of what they got done in the rankings, as they had a first 4 victory. Second one in a row, first ever for HBCU programs, as they just really started first 4. But the credit, they played in it and they got the victory, so the records go the spoils. Number 2, you have Alabama A&M Bulldogs. Won the regular season of the SWAC. Had a tough loss in the semifinals. Shot at the end of the game. Credit to Southern Jaguars to get it done. 22-11, 17-1. 2 first place votes, 74 points. Did play in postseason play. They got an invite, but they had a tough loss to BYU. But they stayed at number 2. Number 1, the Howard Bison, 26-8, 13-1. Got a bid to the NCAA tournament, 14 seed, tough matchup against Ohio State. 4 first place votes, 78 points. They ranked number 1. Getting it done in the regular season, getting it done in the MEAC tournament, and getting that postseason invite. With that being said, Charles, what are your thoughts on week 12? Slight different from last week when you see Maryland Eastern Shore getting in mix over Alabama State or Alcorn State. What are your thoughts?
No, kudos to Maryland Eastern Shore cracking the top 5 there, getting that win. But I agree wholeheartedly. Howard definitely the number 1 team. I'm fighting it out between Southern and Alabama A&M. Southern had the momentum, had won the SWAC championship, got a first 4 win in there. They're my number 2. Then Alabama A&M, then Norfolk State.
So you got Norfolk State at 3, Southern at 4?
No. I got Norfolk State where they are. Norfolk State.
You just got Southern and A&M switched to.
I got Southern and A&M swapped out. Exactly.
So you're staying true to how you held last week. You are comfortable with Maryland Eastern Shore jumping in the top 5. That's good.
I am comfortable with Maryland Eastern Shore jumping in the top 5.
You
yes, indeed.
have the Jaguars sitting at the 2 spot. You value postseason runs and championships more than regular season. I got it.
Yeah, they got the eyeball going down the stretch. It's just like it's like the horse going down the stretch. Yeah.
So let me ask you this in terms of the rankings. Would you give how many of them first place votes would you slide? Where would you give any first place votes to Southern?
I don't think I'd give any first place votes to Southern. I think Howard did more than enough to carry first place votes in terms of being number 1 going into this week's poll. But yeah, I think Howard has separated themselves from the rest of the pack in terms of the top 5. So yeah, Howard probably has all of my 8 first place votes on that.
Mike, what are your thoughts in terms of the poll rankings in week 12? Are you shaking your head like you're in line with Charles if y'all going?
Yep.
Right down the path together.
And we going down that same road. So just get ready for it. We going down that same road. I have Southern as number 2. So and you can give me all that stuff about regular season don't matter. Yes, it does matter. But when you look at sprinters finish, they might got a strong in the middle, but when you look at them finish, so you get
strong finishing kick. That's what
exactly. Usain Bolt, you don't judge him at 50-yard line mark. You judge him when he finished the line, when he finished the race. So I gotta give Southern the edge. I don't think I would give them a first place vote. Howard has been dominant, and as CB said, they're a class above everybody else. They've been dominant during the regular season and in the postseason. So that's the only switch. I'm okay with Norfolk State where they are, and Maryland Eastern Shore as well. So
Mike. So you're a prisoner of the moment as well. I see something about postseason with you. Interesting to see what your thoughts are there. Great comments by both. I think you do make legitimate arguments. So you're in line with Charles also in terms of first place votes. You would, while you'll move Southern up, you would not have in your mind any way that they could get a first place vote.
Correct. That is absolutely muy verdad. Está muy verdad. It's the truth.
I got you. I'm with you. With that, we'll take our next break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll get into the major division and see what they think in terms of the major division. I will say this. There is a change at the top. There is a change at the top. See if you can guess who it is. But to officially hear it, come back on the other side, and we'll give you what the top 5, more importantly. We'll see what Professor Washington have to say about week number 12's top 5.
Somebody in the chat said, when Charles was talking, said, "Here we go again." I don't know who that was. Who was that? Who was that?
We'll be.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. With that being said, we're going to get into the major division for the poll rankings in week number 12 from the men's perspective. Dropping out, we didn't have any team dropped out this week. So you won't have changes in those top five, but you do have some receiving votes. And with that taking place, let's look at those teams that are receiving votes for this week in terms of Florida A&M Rattlers, sit at 15-6. Team overall 11-7 is what they did in conference race. Had a really tremendous year. Finished with a share of the second spot in the SWAC. As they did that, they did get the number 2 seed in the tournament. You have Alabama A&M Bulldogs 18-15, finished with a solid season as well as 10-8 overall. Just like Texas Southern was 10-8 in the conference, but they're 12-18 overall with their ranking. Morgan State Bears 14-16, 10-4 in terms of what they did in the MEAC, and then at the bottom of the receiving votes, last team in would be UAPB. The Golden Lions sit at 13-19, 10-8 with 25 points. Let's get into the top 5 and see where it gets good in terms of what's taking place there. With that being said, we have none other than number 5. The Southern Jaguars finished at 17-17, 11-7 with 51 points. They remain in the 5 position. You have also at number 4, Bethune-Cookman Wildcats sit at 17-15, 14-4. What they did in conference play, winning the regular season championship of the SWAC, 76 points. Were ranked number 3. They slid a spot this week as number 3. Prairie View and Panthers, after a first 4 win, climb up a spot at 19-18, 9-9, 77 points in the 4th spot. Looks like somebody was voting in terms of what they said in the women's. Maybe it caught up on the men's side. And number 2, well, that's number 4. At number 3, you do have those Prairie View and Panthers sitting 19-18, 9-9, 77 points. Let's get on up to number 2 as we are rolling there. At number 2, we have a change. As Tennessee State was previous number 1. They fall a spot to number 2. 23-10 is what they had overall. 15-5, 4 points, 100 points. They were ranked number 1. The number 1 spot goes to Howard Bison, 24-11, 11-3, 6 first place votes. So they were able to take some first place votes from Bethune-Cookman and maybe Tennessee State. They get 6 first place votes, 105 points, and move up. It's after the regular season MEAC championship, the tournament championship, first four appearance and victory. We'll talk about some accolades of what they did in terms of the fourth four in the last segment, but we won't get into that now. But as we do it now, I'm going to go to you first, Mike. What are your thoughts on the top five with Howard sharing that number one spot in week 12 as they do on the women's side? What are your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, you got the top three right. They won their championship tournaments and they got bids. You got them right. I would edge Tennessee State. Ooh, that's hard. You could flop. You could make an argument.
Yeah.
But you can make a good argument for Howard and Tennessee State because in the games they played, like, you look at the margin of victory, how they played in that tournament as well. That's another data point to me. And, Prairie View was a bigger deficit. It was about the same. Howard, Tennessee State played Iowa State. And I forget who Howard, was it Michigan or somebody like that? And I don't know. You can make a good argument. So to be honest, I have nothing wrong with this poll whatsoever. Bethune should be number 4. They were at least the regular season champ for the SWAC. They fell short in the tournament. Southern played hard, but this is one of those times, Doc. I actually agree 100% with your poll with a caveat. You can make an argument for either Howard or Tennessee State being number 1. You could legitimately. I wouldn't argue against any of those.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Way to save me for being able to say you can go in any direction. That helps a little bit. Let's see what Charles has to say in terms of the top 5.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pair it, Mike. I mean, I don't have a problem with the poll. The thing, I guess my argument for Tennessee State is how much weight do we put on the fact that they were a 15 seed, they didn't have to play in the first 4, versus Howard playing in the first 4 and getting a win. So
yeah,
I'm
good point.
fighting.
Good point.
With
that's another good point. There. Yeah, that's another good point. I thought about as well. The path that they had to take to get to where they ended. Howard, had to play first, and then they had to play another. So
then the other thing that Howard has on the side in terms of what we've seen with Tennessee State, Iowa State kind of took it to them. Obviously, we know the differential. And then Prairie View in terms of what happened with them number 1 seed. Also, for the first half, Howard only trailed by less than double digits. I think it was 6 points in that matchup. Then they kind of got away in the second half, but they really adjudicated themselves well in terms of that matchup. So a lot of good things going on there in terms of what that looks like. Boy, it would be fascinating in the first 4 type thing, if you would. What would that look like in terms of if you had a matchup that either had Howard and Tennessee State or, Tennessee State and Prairie View, not necessarily wanting the Howard Prairie View matchup. That still has been fascinating too. When you talk about it like that, that would have been really cool to see what that looks like. So be fascinated as you kind of go from there. I see AD's trying to chime in here, but it's circling on this side. So we'll take the next break. And when we come back in, we'll see if we can get AD in here for that last segment. Talk about some of the data that we want to bring up in terms of what Howard did that was mentioned out there in terms of viewerships. So we'll take our last break, come back on the side, see if we can get everybody in, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and see if we can get into some final thoughts in terms of some data marks for baseball as well. We'll be right back after our last break.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
And we have to fund our kids in these colleges, and we have to make sure our kids have seats in these colleges.
And what about HBCUs? You mentioned.
Absolutely. You got to fund them all, and you got to make sure they're properly funded. You know, the real reason why I went after Comcast and Charter, it didn't have anything to do with my cable networks. It didn't. What happened was a gentleman wanted to do the Black College Sports Network in partnership with the HBCUs. And Comcast did not accept it. And that would have made a lot of money for these black colleges.
Absolutely.
And it would have educated the Black College Sports Network. This is what he wanted to do. That would have educated a lot of black kids. And when they didn't do that, that's when I came off the bench and said, okay, I'm going to light you up like a Christmas tree. Okay. That was the real reason why I got into it, was when I saw what happened with the Black College Sports Network, which I don't own. I just knew.
Why didn't you buy it?
I just knew. I just knew that these black.
I like that talk.
All right. I knew that these black colleges were going to benefit, and these black kids were going to get the education that they deserved and not have to pay.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Before we finish that, AD Drew, I know you was able to chime in there and heard the end of the major division poll rankings top 5. Did you have any final comment that you wanted to share in terms of your thoughts of the top 5 before we move into some other conversations?
Can we put them back on the screen? Because I was having some audio issues when I was connecting, so I can take a look at them again.
Sure. While we're pulling them back up, I'll give them to you so you at least have them. Top 5. Southern Jaguars 17-7, 11-7, 51 points. Previous ranked 5. At number 4, you have Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. Won the regular season of SWAC, as you know, 17-15, 14-4, 76 points. 3 points. Had the early upset, as most people would call it, in terms of the quarterfinals of the SWAC tournament. You have number 3, Prairie View A&M Panthers, 19-8, made the tournament run at the 8th seed, taking it all done. And to really put some icing on it, they were previously ranked 4, but they won the first 4 games and were able to slide up to the 3 spot. And number 2, Tennessee State fall, as they were number 1 for the last 3 or 4 weeks. 23-10, 15-5, 4 first place votes. So they lost 2 first place votes in terms of that ranking there. 100 points, if you would, as you see there. And Howard Bison gained 2 first place votes. In terms of Bethune-Cookman a week ago had some of those first place votes that lost them as well. 105 points, you would, rank number 2. Howard, as you know, won the regular season in the NAIA, won the tournament in the NAIA, won the first 4 games, had a really good first half, if you would say, in their NCAA first round game as a 16 seed against the number 1 seed.
1 and 2, I have no problem. 3, 4, and 5, but I didn't hear what Mike and Charles had to say. I'll have to go back and watch that on the replay. But it's tough 3, 4, 5 because best regular season definitely goes to Bethune-Cookman. Getting hot at the right time award definitely goes to Prairie View A&M, and Southern knocked off Bethune-Cookman in the tournament. So you almost shaking them up in a bag and pulling out 3, 4, and 5. Bethune-Cookman, the best team money can buy until the tournament counts. So if you wanted me to argue putting Bethune ahead of Prairie View based on their regular season, I would buy that argument. But Dr. Cavil polls is a week-to-week poll. Prairie View last 2 weeks were better than Bethune-Cookman's last 2 weeks. And if you keep that theory the same, Southern's last 2 weeks were better than Bethune-Cookman 2 weeks. So using the Dr. Cavil metric, you might want to flip-flop Southern and Bethune. Just throwing it out there.
Ah, good, interesting. You for a while I thought you were gonna go with the regular season thought process, but you also, like Mike and Charles have said, hey, focus more in terms of the tournaments and what teams did of late. So fascinating to how you mix it up and how people think. You did add in a crucial part, which I appreciate you understanding the guideline week to week.
He wanted you to say. He wanted you. What he wanted you to say was.
Exactly. Well, before we get into baseball, let's kind of put a pin on this basketball. There's some data points that are out here, and I think Mike would appreciate this. And kudos for Howard making sure they put this in the social media platforms so people can understand what they are liking to associate with their brand. 1.55 million plus views, tournament brand value in terms of athlete verse in Interlogo, broke it down for the 2026 NCAA tournament brand report. They also had a record-breaking viewership, 12.5 million, 9.8 million opening day coverage in terms of what that looks like. Best ever on record in terms of 9.8 million for opening day average. Primetime viewer all-time record. Let's look at the next one here that we have. 1.5 million, we talked about that. But go back one to 786 in terms of what Howard's tournament run generated. 7,886, 952. That's social plus web, excludes TV broadcast. Interesting.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
The primetime window featuring this matchup, again, this was a number of sources, as you said, reached 12.5. The average, which is another statistic, was 4.52. That's an average. Yes. The game was, the other thing they look at first half statistics, and the game highlighted a lot more national statistics. They don't have the actual value, but the first half viewership was higher than any first half viewership that they've had. They look at average, they look at peak primetime window, and then they look at the halves by viewership. And this game blew it out the window for all 3 or 4 statistics. Dude, are you telling me this? They were a number, 15, 16 seed? And you blew it out the windows like that? That was a 6% increase from 2025. That's how phenomenal that was.
Great point, breaking it down. One last one. What Howard's tournament run generated in terms of sponsor brand exposure was 770,000 plus. This last one I wanted to give you there in terms of metrics. Charles, you heard Mike do his thing, how he got excited. Let me go to you, Charles. What are your thoughts in terms of some of these data points as you see those numbers generated and flying about there?
I mean, succinctly, it tells me that Howard name carries a hell of a lot of gravitas. I mean, that is phenomenal. That's actually something I'm sitting here brainstorming like, oh, I got to take that back to my sports marketing class, because that is absolutely phenomenal to sit there and see those numbers, and it tells me that there were a lot of people, this branding, America's HBCU. They got some numbers to back.
Yeah. I think Emmett raised a good point. How many of those were Howard people, and how many of those were just true Howard plus HBCU people? As well.
I think it's obviously a composite of that, but there's something about the brand that brings in additional thoughts, because you had Prairie View and their numbers were not quite there for the next day, which would have brought a lot of the brand fans of that. I wanted to go to you, Drew, and get your thoughts, but I also wanted you to enter in the dialogue We obviously are aware of the Howard-Morehouse matchups. They do it in football. They do it in basketball in terms of MLK weekend, which obviously you see the rationale why you do that. But what are your thoughts when you see these numbers and you see the brand, as you allude to what Morehouse and Tuskegee was able to do in the NBA basketball, talking about some of these private, well-recognized brands at the HBCU level. In this case, you add on the Division I status and NCAA tournament, and you see what Howard was able to bring to the table.
Well, here's the thing, and I've always said this. If you just talk about brand value, no, we're not talking athletics, we're not talking academics, we're not talking anything else. Just brand value, the most recognizable names, HBCU. If you make a top 5 list, I don't care how you make that top 5 list, Howard is somewhere on that top 5.
Yeah.
The place where I work is also on that top 5 list somewhere.
Yeah.
The other school you mentioned is probably on that top 5 list in Tuskegee. You can't make that top 5 list without those 3 somewhere in the mix. Charles may have Howard 1, Mike may have Howard 3. Who cares? But they're on that top 5 there. But here's the thing, and we at Morehouse, we recognize the value of our name. The people at Howard, I guarantee you, they recognize the value of that name. Tuskegee, where I came from, recognizes the value of that name, and all these institutions have gotten better at leveraging that brand value that's just associated with their name. But those numbers are astonishing when you consider this. You could probably have every HBCU sports fan, every HBCU alum watch and still not get to those numbers.
Right.
That means that people who do not look like anybody on this podcast were tuned in and looking at it. That's where the value is with this. It's the same thing when we talk about the Celebration Bowl and some of those other high value entities that we work. Yeah, the HBCU people tune in. I guarantee you Tuesday night for that Langston basketball game, the NAIA Championship. Every HBCU basketball fan was tuned in to watch Langston that night. But the value is those other people who learn about our institutions now and leveraging it. Because now you know what that means? When Howard goes sits down in somebody's room, talk about, give me some of your marketing dollars. Now I got real quantifiable data to back up why you need to put some extra dollars with that when you put your marketing dollars on the Howard brand.
Does anybody, what was the line for that Howard Michigan game?
Where's Brian at when you need him?
I know. I'm just curious because when you bring out the point that there were
I'm going to say, that's a Brian
HBCU fans and black folks watching Howard, but it does make me wonder if there was something, that pushed the needle to make people watch that game.
Well, I think personally it was this. I think when you put all that together, I think some of those folks that follow the NCAA report, and now you have YouTube that's out there, give Game Day some credit. They put it out there. I think Howard and their players and their coaches did a great job of driving the narrative in terms of telling their story of why they came to Howard University, why they stood around. And I think a lot of people wanted to see what they did when they told that story, particularly in an environment where, while we celebrate, the freedom of players moving, and have understood what that is. But the fact that they stayed at their location and told a compelling story, I think probably drove some extra eyeballs. And Edwin brings up a point that came up before the one he just posted there, where he talked about timing of the game, station of the games, and how close was the game. All play a key role in viewership. A bunch of the folks watched whatever is on, older HBCU alums locate HBCU games on TV and watch. I certainly agree with that, and we've seen that across the board in any sports with that. But I think there's something above that, because these games on Tuesday and Wednesdays are noted, and we've seen first 4 games with HBCU playing on that. So I think there's something additional to that in terms of what that looks like.
The
TNT, TBS, True TV are what those games are. Now, we've always talked about the value. While people had some concern of playing in the first 4, we talked about the value in regards to you having the only program on there, if you would, that people circle in. So they're hungry on basketball. But again, I think a little bit of those storylines in terms of how they played out went a long way. Drew, go ahead and have your comments, and then Mike, I'll let you follow up with that.
If I'm wrong, if I remember right, that game was on CBS, on linear CBS, which also has, because the game was on free TV, versus being pushed out to True or the TBS or the TNT. And we know games on broadcast networks tend to outdraw cable and streaming and everything else anyway. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I know Charles had asked what was the line, was the bet. I think before the game started, from what I'm seeing, it was Michigan 30.5 minus, but when the game started somewhere, I don't know when they take that, it moved to 20. So I don't know if that was competitive or not, because sometimes this thing is moving.
Money. That was money.
Exactly. That was bets and money driving that. So, but it was moved from minus 30 down to 20. It was a competitiveness, but I agree with you, Drew. The money drives that.
Yeah.
I think on that part, but I think it's interesting in terms of how much the money really drive viewership. I think there's some different questions in that. Any additional thought that you have, Charles?
Oh, no, I was just curious. This is a great debate in terms of what was sort of the driver in terms of Howard leveraging.
Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah. But I was gonna go back to Mike's point. Talk about how that game went from what did you say 30 what down to 20?
30.5 down to 20.
Well, that may have had something to do with viewership, because there was a lot of people who had some pizzas on that game, or some cups of coffee on that game. And when that game was supposed
now, that's an interesting study.
We are talking they had more than
how much the betting drive the lines in terms of viewership.
But you see it every Sunday in the NFL.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think that's a different beast. But I'm interested to see how many people are betting on the NCAA college. Obviously, we know we have the sheets out there, but also the betting lines. But to me, I don't want to overdraw it, because this, other than the game being on CBS, they generally on Tuesday and Thursdays on TBS, True TV from that standpoint. So that could be a huge different marker. But these games have been played here before. So what is a little different? So we need to take some time and really look at what is different from this year, besides the teams, and last year, that you may be able to get a better point on what that looks like.
Sounds like an assignment. Charles, go get one of his.
Yeah, that sounds like a class assignment. That sounds like a paper, Charles. You a homework assignment.
Doc can't give it to him anymore because Doc's not in the classroom. So that's on you, Charles.
I know, right?
Yeah, Charles, you got to help me out.
That sounds like a dissertation if I ever heard one.
Well, before we get it closed here, I promise I wanted to give a little breakdown of some of the top players in the SWAC in terms of what's going on here. And so with that being said, let's look at batting average. First 2 weeks in terms of conference play to non-conference, we have Texas Southern, Miguel Morales. Charles talked about Texas Southern on Tuesday a little bit about them being able to hit that ball. He's batting .451. You have another Miguel, Oro. He's I believe it is, at .409. Byron Robinson at .397. Miles Jackson at .395, and Tyree Reed at .389 in terms of batting average. Who's hitting the ball out of the park? You got Jackson Williams with 7. Byron Robinson not only hits above average there, but he also can hit for power with 7 home runs. Julio Vasquez out of Grambling has 6 home runs. And right behind him is Cameron Hill, that Charles always make sure that you keep your eyes on. He has 5 home runs that has some power. Perry Cabral for Jackson State with 5 home runs in terms of what they're able to do there. When you look at those that can hit the ball a little bit, Charles, any comments with those guys, batting average, home runs, in terms of some of them you've been able to see starting out early in the season, others I know you keep your eyes on with SWAC TV.
No, Miguel Morales is the 3rd leading hitter in the nation, batting 463 coming into tomorrow. 3rd leading batter in the nation. But you take a look at it, and I talked about this Texas Southern lineup. The first 6 batters in their lineup, they literally have 4 guys in the top 10 in batting average in the SWAC, and the 5th guy is sitting right there at 11.
That's the point. That's that data point.
You know, this series with Grambling is going to be huge. I talked to Coach Gallego today with regards to how they're going to have to pitch this weekend. He was like, "Listen, pitchers beware, because the ball is going to be flying out of the ballpark. You got some serious home run hitters in this series tomorrow with Texas Southern and Grambling."
That's that point. No, that was that point. 6. You got 6 batters. Their team batting average is the only one that is overall more than 300. If you look at them, I mean, you look at the statistics. I mean, that baseball's a stats game. And then if you look at their statistics, their team average, they scare me. They're 5-1, but 6-0. But to be honest, Texas Southern scares me a lot more. To be honest, with the 6 batters, their team average is 3.322. Now, their slugging percentage, Miguel, oh my gosh, that dude is like 600-700 slugging percentage average. On base percentage, he's top 2 in the SWAC. And then, but the only thing that hurts Texas Southern, Charles, you talked about pitching, their pitching ERA, average ERA, team ERA is in the slumps. The only team that has a decent one is really Bethune.
Oh God, yeah.
So
Bethune got a mound bully out there.
They got a bully out there.
They got Edward Sanchez. I mean, he's Leopold. Remember Bugs Bunny, Leopold, when he came through? They got Leopold heading to the mound. Yeah.
Let me give you that in terms of the top 5 since you bring it up. Tanner Walker with 180 for FAMU. Edwin Sanchez, you just mentioned, 2.20. And then you have Besting Brew at 263. Camden Matthews for the Alabama State Hornets at 333. And Asada Pena, Pena at 4.21. Also for the Alabama State Hornets. Strikeouts. Edwin Sanchez is not only doing it with the ER, he can strike you out as well with 39. Tied with him is Derek Orocha at 39 as well. Caleb Granger for FAMU at 35. Jalen Porter representing Pine Bluff, the Golden Lions at 32. And Bobby Spencer also with 32 for the Southern Jaguars. It'd be fascinating when you talk about that with wins, and with Sanchez with 5, Caleb Granger with 3, Jorhan LeBoy of Alabama State with 3. You got Miles Dismute with 2, and Josh Pena with 2 in terms of those with top 5 wins. Last key stat I'll put in here is stolen base. KJ White Jr. with 16, Jacoby Ratcliffe with 13, Sergio Rivera with 12, Sachera Pace with 11, Texas Southern. Sergio is Bethune-Cookman. Those first 2 was Southern, I should have said. And Rayfield Adams, the 3rd, rounding up the top 5 for Alcorn State Braves with 9.
That's my old teammate son there.
Go ahead, Charles.
I say that's my old teammate son there, Rayfield Adams the 3rd.
There you go. Getting it done. Any final thoughts in terms of baseball? And Drew, you can slide in some SIAC if you want to go that direction, or you can stay where we are in terms of what we just broke down in terms of the SWAC.
I'm gonna stay where y'all at. Y'all talk about all them hot bats and everything else, and Lord Jesus, I don't believe I'm getting ready to make this argument as a FAMU Raptor. But doggone Bethune-Cookman, ERA is 3/4 of a run better than anybody else in the SWAC, with Arkansas Pine Bluff being second. And y'all talk about batting. Well, Bethune-Cookman is third in the SWAC and batting,
Yep.
293. So
Yep.
I'll take the number one ERA and the number 3 team batting and take my chances with them.
Exactly.
That's one reason they 6-0 coming out the box.
Especially come tournament time. Especially come
We go to
tournament
you,
time.
Mike, and then Charles. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I think he took the even though Bethune, if you look at the standings and where they at, look at Bethune, 6-0. But you look at their ERA, and when it comes time to key matchups, especially 3-game series or the tournament, that pitching, that's where it really comes in. And they got they got a few workhorses in here. I did look at the SIAC though. A little bit. Benedict has a team batting average of 328, and Savannah State has 314. And then if you look at pitching, Savannah State a little in the top, but they got some hitters. They got slugging percentage. They hit it out the park. So,
excuse me, Benedict and Morehouse this weekend, Mike.
Yep, I saw that. And if you look at the standing wise, though, you got got what, Albany State, you got Morehouse, you got Benedict somewhere 3 or 4. So that'll be an interesting matchup.
Charles, your final thoughts.
Great matchups this weekend, and I think although it's early, third series or so in the season, but some statements can be made this weekend. Jackson State at Bethune-Cookman, the Alabama State at Florida A&M, Grambling at Texas Southern. You can make some early, statements this season in terms of getting 2 out of 3 this weekend.
Can I ask this before we get out of here?
Yep, go ahead.
One of those teams get swept this weekend that you guys are talking about. Are they out of it, or is it just a bump in the road?
Bump in the road.
Yep.
Too early. Let's get about halfway there. About 5 of these series in, and then I think we can give you a little better update on what that looks like.
It's an early bump.
You do need to keep your eyes on them. One thing I will say, softball has some rivalry games this weekend with some teams at the top of the conference. That's Texas Southern and FAMU in the West. Should be an interesting series there. And then FAMU and Bethune-Cookman in the East. Also another rivalry, if you would, is Valley Jackson State in terms of in-state rivals, I'll say. And then
everybody playing
in Alabama. You have Alabama State and Alabama A&M. Fascinating. The top 2, I think, are the ones that you want to watch in terms of the top of the standings. With that being said, let's get out of here and call it a night. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share your podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Also want to give a shout out to AD Drew jumping in here and giving us some time as he is doing double duty. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Shout out to Roy Evans, had to pull him out the production side as he's doing double duty as well.
He over there.
Got him back in the fold and sharing us some love.
He in that room over there.
He's right over there.
Tell Roy I got something for him. Tell Roy I got something for him.
And not till you get off my clock,
Tell Roy I got something for him.
Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. We'll be back next week to give you the final poll rankings in basketball and close that out. And then get some mix up and seeing the third week of baseball, a couple of weeks in softball as well, and give you some updates of what's churning on that side of things in baseball and softball for SIAC. SWAC, get some poll rankings out there. I think Black College 9 releases their stuff. So we'll be able to get some of those updates and see what the population thinks over there. But we look forward to next week as we'll discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, that's DrKenyatta Cavil on Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1, as you know, on Facebook. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Big Mike?
Lecture.
AD Drew?
Hey, we're going to simulcast the Morehouse Relays tomorrow on the Black College Sports Network tomorrow and Saturday. I'm watching great track right here or morehouseathletics.com. Sorry, I had
Man,
to get
start
that
with the
in, y'all.
promo. Man, just get stick the script.
Going play-by-play with Texas Southern through the weekend.
Start with the promos.
Man, these folks